Welcome back to How Do You AI? In this episode, we speak with Christian Smith from Hypothesis Factory. We are going to find out how his company produces studio quality creatives to elevate branding and marketing. And I'm so curious about this because it helps increase sales engagement, all kinds of cool things for brands. So, welcome, Christian.
Hey Raj, thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
Yeah, if you want to start with an intro and your AI journey, that'd be great.
So, my background is I am a kid who grew up in a box of Legos and was homeschooled and figured out a way to never stop building things. So, I started my career as a mechanical engineer, studied at UC Santa Barbara, and I didn't even make it through, my full undergraduate degree before I started my first company. So a friend and I started a company called Tracker. We built coin-sized key finders before Apple AirTag was out there. We saw that we misplaced our keys, our phone, we lost everything. In fact, we almost had his car get washed away when he parked it at the beach, and then he parked below the high tide line and we couldn't find the key. We went out and surfed and came back and realized he was gonna get his car lost on the beach. So literally just washed into the ocean. And as the tide was rising, we were really fortunate because there was a guy with a metal detector walking down the beach. So my co-founder Chris handed him $100 bill and said, "Hey, can you help me please find my key?" And it had fallen in the sand off the bumper. Fortunately, the guy with the metal detector helped us find it. But that's when we realized there was such a huge pain in misplacing your keys all the time. So we built the first coin-sized key finders and created a crowd locate network that allowed people around the world to help each other anonymously find their lost items. So we helped millions of people, find their keys during the day, and then hundreds of people find lost or stolen things. I think my favorite was an office got robbed and they got a GPS update from the community, and the police officer went with them to the parking lot in a shopping center, and they stood by the car and they waited and they waited. And after about 30 minutes, the thief walked out and the cop made them open up the back of their car because they could hear the beep from the tracker on this guy's wallet, and they found laptops, purses, and all of this other stuff that this thief had stolen from their office. So that's just one story of among countless ones that we were able to kind of help people with that core problem of losing and misplacing things. So we went through that company from, I want to say, 2008 is when we, 2007, 2008 is when we first started it. And then we scaled it up to doing 50 million in sales. And then in 2017, we raised a Series B and hired a team to kind of replace ourselves. And they went off and took the company on to the next level. So that was the first go round, the entrepreneurial merry-go-round. Quite a ride being in hardware, in the teens and thousands. Was super grateful for platforms like Indiegogo, and the Slava Rubin and the great team there that kind of helped enable so much innovation during that time. And so really got started in consumer tech. Then from there, helped other friends scale up their companies, most notably joined a group in Houston during COVID, and everything was shutting down. But a friend of mine was working like crazy. My friend Daniel was working like crazy, and he called me up and said, "Hey, we're trying to get as many smart people in the room as possible. Are you interested in coming to Houston and helping scale up a COVID lab?" So I didn't have anything else. The whole world was shut down. So I immediately got on a plane, and within 36 hours, I landed in Houston, and a group, helped basically take a lab that was doing 500 PCR samples a day to shooting 20,000 lasers through, everyone's genetic material to see what was bouncing out. And we were able to scale up the lab capacity to about 20,000 samples in a 24-hour period with 3 shifts. And then at that point, I got into opening up testing sites. So helped open, I think, 46 testing sites in 24 cities. And we were able to directly help 50,000 people get COVID tested. So that was kind of my foray into the medical world and kind of direct to consumer medicine. After that company, Decina, was sold in a consolidation of labs in 2021.
Nice.
I jumped into starting another company called Forta Health with Ritonker and Jonathan, who were at Decina, and we built a parent-centric autism therapy model. And so we're able to kind of empower parents to be the primary hands and feet of a telehealth caregiver. And then we were able to use AI we published several papers on this, but put our clients on kind of a spectrum score and then chart a best fit kind of pathway that they could potentially improve from what we saw, and then use a language model to turn that into a treatment plan. And so it started saving clinicians 9 hours instead of writing a treatment plan for 10 hours. We would actually be able to produce a plan that they could clean up in a few hours, and have really kind of more measurability along that journey. And we published a paper that showed our clients were improving their skill acquisition by about 150% faster. So that was incredibly exciting to see, just being able to, for people who have been waiting for years to get autism therapy, to actually deliver something that helped their children do verbal acquisition or whatever, that skill acquisition faster, was incredibly powerful. So that's where I really feel like I learned the power of machine learning and the power of prediction that these models have. And so that's kind of, we scaled that up to where we were serving hundreds of families. Forte is still running. We've got a great team there that's kind of making sure to deliver that model. And I last year jumped into kind of restarting Hypothesis Factory, my agency, and it was just perfect market timing to basically AI max whatever workflows were, that I was doing to do customer acquisition.
That's great.
So that's what we do at Hypothesis Factory, is kind of help founders basically take acquisition, the day-to-day quagmire of acquisition off of their plate, so that they can focus on building and scaling the business, and then we can be a partner in helping them do that.
That's amazing. Let's jump right in and see what amazing things you have for us to see from AI tools.
Awesome. So we're excited to share a little bit what we've been working on. One of the first kind of like products that we built it's a service called Agent C, and really it helps brands supercharge their creative production. So one thing that I've learned, generating over 120 million in direct to consumer revenue, is that brands thrive when they have great creative. But it's such a tough, it's so hard to get that sometimes. And there are tons of bottlenecks in getting good creative, and it takes a lot of experimentation, which results to like time and cost. And once we make these big marketing investments into a video or a campaign, there isn't the ability to modify it downstream. And it's kind of very fixed. So we thought about how do we build more programmatic creative, so that we can, with code, modify, what we're doing with photo and video, so that we can deploy the tests that allow the different ad algorithms or optimization algorithms to truly reach a definitive conclusion that a piece of content is better.
Oh,
So that
that's
was
really
like the core problem that we set out to solve in this AI Max kind of workflow. And I'll actually show you, where we started. We were, you know, building this campaign to help recruit lung cancer, for a lung cancer trial. And so we had come up with some of these, ads, mostly using stock creative, but nothing was really, really great. So we decided, okay, let's change it a little bit and see if we can use some, folks who resonate with that core audience. And so we built out this set of characters, starting with a doctor and saying, okay, let's take this like reference image and then let's turn it into, a JSON prompt and then start to begin this like whole character development cycle. And so we saw that, these types of doctors weren't testing so well, but we were able to come up with this doctor who was kind of fit this this type, and then we're able to get her into kind of like the right age range so that the folks who were learning about this trial could see kind of a character that represented a doctor that they would trust, because that's what we're trying to do is like connect them with that clinician. So we were able to create a character that really resonated. And then on the other side, we saw that like many of the folks who have the type of lung cancer that we're targeting were in the construction industry, like around a lot of dust, smoke. Potentially they were smokers, and so we turned some reference images into AI generated images of these characters, and then from there we were able to like take those characters and then translate them into kind of that moment where they had got that lung cancer diagnosis. And anybody who has had a lung cancer diagnosis would see this and it would deeply resonate. Like my heart sinks even just looking at it because it's clear that there's lung cancer, on this chest X-ray. And so by deploying good creative that really kind of resonated with the core and target audience, we saw just an incredible response from this type of an ad unit relative to using stock photo or kind of a lot of the industry uses really heavy text.
totally makes sense.
Yeah, so that's when we kind of knew we were onto something, and so we started talking to other brands and seeing what were their problems, what did they need, and we started seeing some really great results where we were able to reproduce the results of a photo shoot using generative AI without ever going into a studio. So we helped a brand produce a lay flat campaign. They had all the shots of the products on models, but then we were able to make these little lay flat photo shoot, and instead of renting a studio for $5,000 a day, paying someone $2,000 a day to kind of fold the clothes and a photographer $5,000 a day to shoot all the work, we were able to do it at a fraction of the cost. And we've also worked with other brands to take existing creative that they have and then apply motion graphics to it so that it kind of really helps to increase engagement or conversion and bring the brand to life.
Awesome.
So we took that old waterfall methodology of deploying creative and turned it into something where we can deliver quality content at speed and scale, and also really think about how are we building the creative units so that we can accomplish the goal, whether it's reduce bounce rate, increase conversion, increase cross-sell. We're able to kind of engineer the creative so that the consumer can resonate with the brand, and then that makes them more likely to kind of move towards that goal.
It totally resonates.
So yeah, I mean, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So we'll take kind of an existing image, put it into our model, and then use that model to generate elevated variations.
Nice.
And so we see that, we can take something that is maybe like kind of flat, plasticky looking, and then turn it into something that feels a lot more real and really highlights the benefits of that product. Because, Crocs, you're going to be maybe wearing these on a slippery surface. And so you can see how grippy it is.
Yeah.
And then we can pull that from not only the product display page, but then into a larger ad campaign. So we can build a whole universe that the Crocs live in that you would, see on a billboard or a subway station, or an ad unit out there, and then kind of get that scroll stopping interest to then come into, that brand's universe and start to engage with the brand on, from a purchase level.
That's so nice.
And then we can kind of create characters and then pull them into this universe and, give them the product to play around with. So we'll do that for apparel brands and CPG, where we can, pull in things with, really kind of well thought out lighting, perfectly kind of highlighting, all of the condensation on this little can, and then make sure that, we put that can on a beautiful beach in Maui at sunset, and then we can create kind of those scroll stopping motion assets that really give a sense to the user, what that brand experience is going to be like.
That sounds so cool.
And so we're able to kind of execute the that really challenging post-production motion graphics work for our clients to really help them make engaging, creative.
That's incredible.
And here was the shot that we did. And so this shot would have cost probably about $10,000 in a studio, because you would have had the camera mounted on this nice little robot that's going and panning around. And so we were able to kind of recreate that motion sequence, with generative AI inside our product models. So those are the types of things that we like to help with. So lowering, CAC, CPA, CPC, increasing conversion rates, increasing, production speed, or, being able to scale with lots of different colorways. And so to kind of, show you a little bit more on what does that look like from a development side, we can, see, we start here and then JSON prompt into, building these colorway swaps, and then pull that into a motion asset that's going to, maybe if the problem the brand is experiencing is the bounce rate on their, product display pages is too high, then we can, start to use some better creative assets to solve that problem, and then pull that into, this would be like a higher level landing page or ad unit level, where we can then again use that like motion to help grab people's attention and stop people from just scrolling past your ads, and then pull that into that whole universe, and then create the kind of high quality motion assets that are going to be really exciting and engaging. And, from what I hear, if you were to go to a studio and produce this shot, it would, just this shot alone is probably about an $80,000 production. Wow. Because you have to have a model on a rig, and then all the post-production, you have to build every single different facet of this whole Candyland set that would be, pretty wasteful. But we can kind of capture that. And not only that, we can then pull, into different environments so that the brand can test kind of what resonates with these different audiences.
It's really cool. And how have brands seen increase in engagement and sales, and anything you want to share to that?
Yeah, I don't have authorization to share exact numbers, but we can see that, when there are, there's a conversion rate on like a certain kind of look. We can take kind of that very aspirational model and then, help that brand test kind of more relatable characters,
Okay.
and then put those characters into, whatever outfits, the brand has, and then pull those characters into whatever environment, is going to really help tell that story. So what we see is, just the ability to kind of do some character swaps, pull, new characters and test them, has been incredibly powerful for brands, so that they're not just, stuck with kind of their original content. We can help transform whatever photo shoots they've done in the past into new, fresh things that are helping engage the consumer. So really, yeah. So that's been, I would say, a big thing, because the fresh content, Facebook and all the meta ads really run and are powered by all of these different content variations. And so feeding a meta ad account as much creative as possible and as many variations as possible helps the algorithm optimize who to deliver it to, because there are so many different personas, so many different preferences, that we can really kind of help create that resonating match with unique pockets of audiences.
Got it. Cool. Awesome. Are you able to show any more on the process? I know some of it is proprietary, and I wouldn't want you to go into that, but is there anything else you can go into the details?
Yeah, so we typically will take kind of an original image, and then use our kind of AI production generator algorithms to come up with new variations. This would be, taking kind of the lighting and then turning it into, studio lighting, on a seamless background, rather than they have kind of, the background cut out, and it's like looks like a PNG, that's pasted on a white background. So really kind of thinking through, we analyze the image. Our team will analyze the image and then, produce kind of some higher quality variations that are likely to kind of elevate the brand. And then we can pull, once we have that image kind of in our model and it's generating, high quality kind of images in a studio, then we can start to pull that into different environments with different collections. And then think about, taking the brand's kind of original content and then turning that into more elevated variations, with different models, so that they can have kind of test fresh content on their product display pages to see how those convert.
It's amazing. It just feels like a creative design studio, all in all.
It's been really fascinating to make things more programmatic, and then also doing really kind of making some of the more just challenging motion graphics content accessible to brands. I think that's been something that we see converting really, really well. And so part of some of our core libraries are really how do we do the patterns that are catching people's eyes, and converting well. And not every kind of brand. The more, as we do more beverage brands, for example, we can come up with a larger library of, splash patterns and coming up with like unique, fresh things for each brand, so that, the core model is able to generate the things that are going to resonate the most with the brand's core audience.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'm trying to think what other examples would be fun to show. This is another kind of Amazon company. And we took their original product photo, with some dead grass and, brick houses in the background. And then we're able to pull that into some elevated variations.
Nice.
With the cars that are more aspirational, the home that's more aspirational. So it really kind of resonates with how that user wants to display, their life, and then pull that into, an audio, like auto showroom that, you would expect to see this product used on, just because it has some of the best kind of characteristics for, shine and really helping to, give your automobile that, like, just drove it off the lot feel. We're able to kind of recreate that feeling, with this imagery.
Nice.
I'm trying to think. Let's see. And then what we've seen is like the ability to kind of do some kind of colorway swaps. So if there's a photo that's like working well, but a brand only has one of them, we can put it in like every product. And then we can kind of take, whatever's there and then apply some post-production filters to clean up the images, and really make them, ready for a broader campaign, whether it's, shown everywhere on the internet or going to go into a magazine.
That is really cool. Christian, now, like from working with so many brands now, like what have you seen from an AI model's perspective? How is the quality changing? How are things evolving, both for, video as well as creative images?
Yeah, the one thing that has been really fun to figure out is how do we replicate, the quality that is captured with traditional production.
Yeah.
So here, an example is we worked with a production company that shot this video in person. They shot it in Yosemite. It's an outdoor brand. They went to the Death Valley and the dunes to like get some additional clips. And they worked with Vibram to make the soles of these shoes. And the challenge was they got all the way to Yosemite, but then they didn't shoot the bottom of the shoe. And so they had these like still shots, but they didn't have the video of it. And so we were able to recreate the exact rock that the model was walking on, and then kind of generate still images at the angle that the production company wanted. And then we were able to generate a motion asset that helped that they were able to splice into the final cut, rather than going back to Yosemite and renting, the $10,000 camera and paying, the whole production staff to go back and capture this moment. That's kind of where we're seeing these APIs are now allowing us to basically create the consistency that works in commercial production, so that there isn't kind of the same, types of, they don't have those gaps anymore. And so, yeah, we were able to also recreate like a motion asset of that, that same shoe walking on the beach or walking on the dunes. So those are kind of where we see the ability, like kind of our proprietary kind of internal system is able to then, work and leverage this set of API, the image generation APIs that are out there. And then we kind of understand how to leverage that set of APIs and get different results. And, each model behaves a little bit differently. But part of what we are seeing, being able to put together is understanding which pathway to take, to achieve the client's result.
Awesome. And what personal tools are you using, Christian, for your business or marketing or sales or anything? What does that workflow look like?
Yeah, we're keeping it pretty lean. It's Google Workspace, GitHub, and Slack for internal comms. Then whatever LLMs and platforms that we're plugging in, to that kind of glob of information. And that's where we really see having the different like LLMs and agents, intersect with a shared common view of what we're working on in Google Workspace and GitHub. Really allows us to have consistency of process and then also version control of how each department's agents are functioning. And so that's been kind of a big game changer.
So you built the agents for each department yourself, or you've used like some stack to build that?
Yeah, we are using mostly like Hermes agent as an agent, and then some kind of OpenClaw. Or OpenClaw is just a messaging architecture is kind of how I've come to understand it. And so that's kind of passing some messages back and forth, within the database and, agents.
Awesome. No, thank you, Christian. This was very helpful. Like, is there any way in which you're trying to crack where I or anybody listening can help you in any way with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, if there are any brands who are interested in kind of learning more about what we're doing and helping them get, solve their revenue conversion rate problems, you can go to hypothesisfactory.com and, learn more about us. We're always looking for different agency partners who help run ads for their clients, and then we can kind of bolt into their system and provide them high quality creative, whether those are like motion or still assets, or kind of, we'll work directly with brands as well to help them optimize whatever their pipeline is.
That's awesome. No, thank you. This was super helpful. I think everybody suffers with not having creative software. I've always kind of taken into consideration either your choices are de facto or like basic AI images, or go to get some stock photos. So knowing that companies like yours are really solving that problem is super interesting and are trying to do it in a cost efficient way. So thank you, Christian. This was amazing, and appreciate your shares.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's awesome to be able to kind of see how there is a lot of like people have a lot of ability with the models that are out there, but then there is this very jagged frontier of results that people can get. And what we see is the experts who generated great results before before AI was introduced are still the ones that are generating the best results. And so really kind of that's a core part of, where we see services go is the, experts who have the most taste are going to continue to deliver the best results. And so that's kind of where we see being able to work with brands is we can provide the best, editors and kind of creatives who are working on content for Rivian, Apple, Red Bull, Patagonia, and making, their TV campaigns, and then kind of fractionalize their availability to other smaller brands so that they can really tell the brand story that is going to resonate with their core audience and then differentiate them from their competition.
So, thank you, Christian.